Welcome back. Bihar has gone the Gujarat way. The state has gone dry from today. 4 days back, it banned country liquor, and today all kinds, including Indian-made foreign liquor. It, in fact, advanced the date for banning IMFLs by about 6 months. As a result, it will lose almost 4,000 crore rupees. And while the government had indeed announced that it will impose a ban on the sale of alcohol in the state, there was still some ambiguity over whether the ban should extend to Indian-made foreign liquor as well. But the Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, who had made it an election promise in the lead up to the elections, has clarified that the ban will be over all kinds of alcohol, be it country liquor or otherwise. In fact, Bihar will be the fourth state to become a completely dry state.
Right, so now let's talk more about Bihar becoming the fourth state to ban alcohol, the fourth dry state in the country. Joining us to discuss that is Pavan Verma of the JDU and D. Dhanuraj, the chairman of the Center for Public Policy Research. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Mr. Verma, I'm going to come to you first. 4 days back, we did see your government ban country-made liquor in the state of Bihar. We understood that IMFL and all other kinds of liquor would only be banned 6 months from now. Why is it that the state of Bihar decided to advance that and have an effectively completely dry state from today?
Well, I think one of the reasons was that there was public demand that there should not be a partial ban but a complete ban. You know, one of the signs of leadership is to internalize what public opinion is feeling, but to react to it not necessarily impulsively, but only after you've put in place a series of instrumentalities, including administrative measures, by which you can implement that policy. Those measures were already in place. It was being progressively phased out for 6 months later when there would have been a total ban. Seeing public demand, and to prevent any kind of fracturing of the essential aim of this policy, which is to ban the availability of liquor, the date was advanced.
But Mr. Verma, I don't understand. You're basing reactions on just 4 days. How is that well thought out? It is knee-jerk. And what happens to all of the liquor that had been bought, all of the IMFL by, bars, restaurants, etc.? What happens to all of those people as well as the IMFL companies?
Well, actually, obviously, those who have been stocking up on liquor will face losses. Literally, thousands of liters of liquor were destroyed. But you've got to weigh the options between these losses and larger gains. And especially 50% of the electorate of Bihar, which are women, have been making this demand consistently. And I want to make a point to you, it was not impulsively done in 4 days. We won the election in November. That's when he announced it. We are now in April. He has taken 4 months of intensive meetings with the administration, with the bureaucracy, to ensure that the normal pitfalls which are associated with prohibition don't happen, or at least don't happen to the largest possible measure. And such instruments include, first of all, the cooperation of the public, without which no policy is possible to implement, but a whole lot of use of technology, including toll-free call lines, control rooms, CCTV cameras, policing, monitoring, and punishments, because there is a retributive side to it. Those making illicit liquor, there's the death penalty for it. Now we are going to watch and see how this policy unfolds itself. The response of the people has been exceptionally enthusiastic. And I want to say this, it transcends and goes beyond merely 50% of the electorate, which is women. The entire legislature of Bihar has welcomed it. 70,000 police officials have welcomed it and said they will implement the policy. Now let us see.
This will obviously be very happy. They get to monitor.
And not prejudge it. Sorry?
Okay, I'm going to bring Mr. Dhanuraj in at this point. Mr. Dhanuraj, you just heard what Mr. Pavan Verma had to say. There's going to be more policing, more monitoring, CCTV cameras, a death penalty. You have been carrying out research of what happens when there is prohibition. We have, at least from the Chicago days, seen higher corruption, the police getting undue powers, etc. Would you have thought that this is a good move by the state of Bihar?
No, I don't think so because there is not even a single event, single history that validates the argument that prohibition will save the population from drinking alcohol. We have history in US, we have a few states in India, including Maharashtra, we have history in Haryana, Punjab, and now of course in Kerala the ban is on. But more or less all the states had faced issues, difficulties in giving that protectionist environment so that the spurious trade of the trade of spurious liquor and bootlegging. I don't think any state has a mechanism to stop from having that kind of black market. So I think it's not a wise move from Bihar government to ban alcohol at this point of time, and especially when you have 4,000 crores of revenue. I'm sure the government is planning to make up these laws of revenue by increasing the VAT on various things. That's on one side. On the other side, the poor becomes poorer and the rich, they don't care about the ban. I think they have different sources and channels to procure and consume liquor. So I don't think, Haryana had this experience in 90s. They banned alcohol in 2 years' time. They had to withdraw it. Punjab had this experience. They also had to cancel the ban in a few years' time. And Gujarat, for that matter, if one of the reasons most of the governments validate their argument, citing the physical abuse faced by the women folk, I think if you look at the National Crime Records Bureau, I think more incidents of physical abuse there in Gujarat is almost as equal as the physical abuse and crimes recorded in a state like Uttar Pradesh. So I think the state having a prohibition, Gujarat has got higher number of incidents of physical abuse against women. I think this argument doesn't favor the Bihar government's decision. So I think it's a wrong move. I think it's a it's a political move, I would say. And the policemen would be happy because they would be able to raise more money from different channels, because you are going to have a system, a machinery that is going to oversee and monitor how this liquor is banned, how the prohibition is enforced. And I'm sure this is a state where lakhs of people are consuming alcohol. All of a sudden, if you think that they are going to give up the consumption pattern, I think the politicians are unwise. They are very rude, and it's a very unwelcome move.
Mr. Pavan Verma, come in on that. You've just heard what Mr. Dhanuraj has had to say. How are you going to ensure that the police don't misuse their power? How are you going to ensure there is going to be no production of illicit liquor, which has also led, for example, to deaths in other states? And why go for prohibition when it has failed worldwide, be it in Chicago or in our own states in the country?
Well, my short answer to that is, let us not prejudge this particular move based entirely on the basis of past experience. Case of Mr. Nitish Kumar and this government, even though we know that there are great challenges to such a policy, a series of measures have been considered and put on the ground to prevent the misuse or abuse of the policy of prohibition. One of our great strengths is that the policies is being implemented in a milieu where there is great popular support for its implementation, and any breach of law is being monitored by the people themselves because they support this policy. Let us see how the policy unfolds. We can meet again after a few months and review whether the policy has succeeded. Certainly, it's not an easy policy to implement, and it is precisely for those reasons that Mr. Nitish Kumar and the Bihar government have taken over 4 months in order to put in place a certain administrative framework before this policy has been brought in as a total ban. Let us watch and wait what happens, but at least from the response of the people at this moment, it's a very welcome move.
We won't prejudge, Mr. Verma, but the fact is history has been against prohibition, be it in Chicago, be it in Haryana, be it in Punjab. We'll get you back on the channel after 6 months and you can tell us how successful or unsuccessful it has been. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here on CNBC TV 18. We're completely out of time, so we have to wrap up this edition of What's Hot.